that fair value is approaching $1 million. Some people think that that sounds crazy, but mathematically, the move from 3,000 to 60,000 is 20x. Well, guess what? The move from 50,000 to $1 million is 20x. Why did we get that move? Because of lowering interest rates and printing money. We are now lowering interest rates and we will soon print money. When you do the same thing and expect different results, that's insanity. To think Bitcoin can't do the same 20x that it went from 3 to 60, from 50 to $1 million on the same monetary policies from the government, that's insanity. And I fell privy to that same thing. I started buying Bitcoin at 150, bought it all the way up to over 1,000. I'm like, this thing's gonna go. And then, all the way back down. I'm like, whoa, oh my gosh. Like, what? I gotta understand this better. Like, I gotta know what I own here. But we all go through that experience because it's just funny how we start out that way. But that, along with my mining experience and really trying to figure out how to run a mining business profitably, is what led to the BFV algorithm and later the BFV indicator that was popularized by TradingView. And the idea is, like I was saying before, BFV creates a range. And
BFV stands for
Bitcoin fair value.
Okay.
So it would be like it's not really the cost of production, because what happens is when you start doing a deeper dive into how these things work, no two miners have the same cost of production. Right now, I'm actually advocating, and I've reached out to Saylor, haven't heard back from him. No surprise there, right? I'm a very small account and he's a very busy man. But I think the Bitcoin Mining Council should take notes from the Gold Mining Council, because if you're part of the Gold Mining Council, there is a required reporting of what they call the all-in sustaining cost, which is just a fancy way of saying the cost of production. How much does it cost to rip an ounce of gold out of the ground and then sell it to the marketplace? Well, there is no recommended reporting in Bitcoin. So a lot of time what you'll see with these public miners is they'll tell you about their electrical cost. Yeah, oh yeah, it costs $40,000 for me to mine a Bitcoin. Yeah, an electrical cost. But you have land, labor, and materials. So your operational expenses might be $40,000 per Bitcoin. But when you take into capital expenditures, the $100 million you needed to build on the land and everything that you have, then it's closer to $100,000 of cost of production per Bitcoin. So there's a lot of difference between analysts and how they look at the cost of production of Bitcoin. Some will look at the electrical cost. Some will look at the operational expenditures. Some will combine both capital expenditure and operational expenditures. And that's really what this cost of production range does. The top end of the cloud, I believe your producer will put the chart up. The top end of that line on the red cloud is the all-in cost of production. So that's going to be your CapEx plus OpEx. And that's an average, right? There's no way. That's what you do. If a miner comes to BFV and says, hey, we need help. The first thing we do is a cost basis analysis. Figure out how much money are you spending? How much money have you put through capital expenditures? What's your operation? And figure out your cost basis. Because believe it or not, a lot of these miners are operating and they do not know their cost of production. They literally do not know. Even some publicly traded companies, they do not know their exact cost of production. That's terrifying as a producer of a good or service. You should absolutely understand that basis line. And it turns out that understanding is not only beneficial to miners, but it's also extremely beneficial to long-term investors, because that's how you avoid dipping your toes in at $150 and then going all in when the price goes over $1,000, like I did, right? So you have to understand where you are in that commodity cycle. And the best way to understand where you are in that commodity cycle is no different from Bitcoin than any other commodity. Let's take real estate, for example. If you have a real estate that you're interested in, a piece of land that you're interested in, or a home that you're interested in, the first question I would ask as a real estate investor would be, what's the replacement cost? And that's just the real estate industry's fancy word for cost of production. How much would it cost me to get all of the concrete, the wire, the wood, all of the materials? How much would it cost me to rebuild this, to replace this? And if the price of the home is less than the replacement cost, it's a no-brainer. It's a good buy. You're buying it for cheap. You're getting a good deal. But if the price of the home to build is $300,000 and you're turning around and buying it for $600,000, you're paying a 100% premium to the cost of production. That's expensive. So when price is above cost of production, we call that premium. Not all premiums are expensive, but most of them are. And when the price is below the cost of production, we call that a discount. Now, as a long-term investor, you want to buy discounts and you want to rebalance during premiums so that you can buy more during discounts. But these signals on the Bitcoin fair value algorithm, they pop up maybe like once every couple of years. I mean, this is not like you sign up for a group and you get pinged on your phone every 5 minutes. It's like, what the hell? Like, what is this guy expecting me to do? Make 500 trades in a day? You know, like, no, you'll get like a signal, like maybe every couple of years. Like, it's very rare. Like, these cycles take a long time. So it's a long-term mindset and it's a long-term strategy based on what I like to call a coded commodity cycle because of the difficulty adjustment, because of the halving. Right. And the halving tends to be the catalyst to a new price discovery cycle because the cost of production doubles overnight. So when that cost of production doubles overnight, the red cloud you've seen on the chart, it doubles overnight. The bottom line being the electrical cost, the top line being the all-in cost of production, creates a range. So when price is in that cloud or below that cloud, you buy. You buy like there's no tomorrow. You put everything in that you can. When price goes above that cloud and you go back to premiums, now you start to rebalance. You start to build a cash position. You start to build a position that can allow you to create cash flows.
Yeah, rebalance doesn't necessarily mean you sell your Bitcoin.
Yeah,
it just means that you just divert buying Bitcoin to saving cash.
Everybody knows Mr. 100, right? Mr. 100 has thousands of Bitcoin. See, sometimes he buys 100 Bitcoin per day, but then every once in a while you'll see him sell 500 or 1,000 Bitcoin. Why? Because he's just rebalancing so that he can buy more Bitcoin, because the goal is to buy more Bitcoin, because you should never sell your Bitcoin. And if you sell your Bitcoin, I'm very sorry for you. Your mindset should never be to sell Bitcoin. Matter of fact, once People's Reserve comes out, you'll never have to sell your Bitcoin. We want to empower you by allowing you to, number one, not have to pay capital gains on selling your Bitcoin, but number two, accessing that trapped equity, unlocking that equity for you to use in the real world without having to give up ownership. Yeah. And Elon Musk did that when he bought Twitter. Part of how he financed Twitter was he borrowed against his Tesla shares. So if you could do it with Tesla, that's a much riskier form of collateral than Bitcoin. You definitely be able to do it with Bitcoin. You should be able to do it with Bitcoin even cheaper. And this helps you understand, number one, when to borrow against it, when to rebalance, and when to go big. And like I said, that only comes around, you can see it on the chart, once every blue moon. But typically during the bear market is when you're going to get the best prices in dollar terms. But when you look at where we are on the chart now, Bitcoin is right in its cost of production range. So when Bitcoin was 9,000 before COVID, it was at a premium. COVID hit, it went down to 3,000. That was the electrical price at that time. BFV was signaling, hey, you should buy here because price is below all-in cost of production and is down towards electrical cost. This is a hell of a deal. And what happened? Soon after that, it went right back up to that premium. But then what happened was the halving. And the halving made the electrical cost go from 3,000 to 6,000. And the all-in cost of production from 4,000 back up to like 9,000. So even though Bitcoin was at 9,000 where it was before COVID, it was just as cheap as it was during that COVID crisis because it's back in the cost of production cloud. And it's always market price relative to cost of production range in order to determine what you're buying is cheap or expensive. And if you can answer the question, is this cheap or expensive? You're going to have a hard time losing in anything that you do.
Yeah, and it's a great way to fight your natural emotional impulses to sort of fight that fear to buy when prices are low.
Yeah.
Which is a natural human behavior.
Yep.
That all good investors have figured out how to counter trade that natural emotional impulse.
Yeah. And right now too, at the all time, I
shouldn't even use the word trader. Natural, bias that leads to good investing.
And people right now feel that Bitcoin's expensive because it's at its previous all-time high. Yeah. But the all-in cost of production right now is $69,000.
Wow.
So we are hovering right at fair value. So some people are saying this is expensive. This is expensive. No, it's not. This is actually the same type of value proposition that we had post 2020 halving, where price was at 9,000 and cost of production was at 9,000, and we went sideways for about 6 months. The same thing's happening here. We're just going sideways for a little bit longer, but we're right at that fair value. And what comes next in the cycle? Well, once you go from discount, you go to fair value, from fair value to premium, then from premium back down to fair value. And through the cycle, which you can see on the chart, the cost of production cloud continues to go up. And that's part of the strategic design. That's the difficulty adjustment, pushing that cost of production cloud up. So the next time Bitcoin comes down, it's going to make a higher low, but still offer you the same value proposition. Right. It's an amazing thing.
That's fantastic. That's brilliant. That's a great way to end it. CJ, tell everybody where they can find you. Let's get all the hashtags out there and all the different places they can look you up.
Yeah, so the best place to follow me is on X. It's just at CJ Constantinos. You can see it on the screen there. And then I'm on YouTube at CJ Constantinos. And of course, you can follow at BFV Fair Value, which is you can follow along. I make public some of those things. I haven't posted in a while, but Bitcoin Fair Value right now, and nobody knows this, and I haven't dropped it in months. Bitcoin Fair right now, that fair value is approaching $1 million. So some people think that sounds crazy, but mathematically, the move from 3,000 to 60,000 is 20x. Well, guess what? The move from 50,000 to $1 million is 20x. Why did we get that move? Because of lowering interest rates and printing money. We are now lowering interest rates and we will soon print money. When you do the same thing and expect different results, that's insanity. To think Bitcoin can't do the same 20x that it went from 3 to 60, from 50 to $1 million on the same monetary policies from the government, that's insanity.
So you've heard Bitcoin is the new gold rush by now. As world leaders on all sides have endorsed it as the future of money, and now you're looking to get started, we'll show you how. It's actually easier than you think. First, go to your nearest Byte Federal ATM and turn your cash to coin. Byte Federal has over 1,200 locations around the country with the highest daily limits. Go to our website, bytefederal.com, to find the nearest ATM to you. Log in to any wallet, then create an account, deposit your US cash, and instantly convert it to Bitcoin. That's it. We are the only US manufacturer and operator in the Bitcoin ATM industry, and our US-based live customer service is second to none. Go on, give it a whirl, and don't get left behind. Click the link below.